You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Goku. We are here for another Shoot the Breeze episode. I want to thank everyone who's here already. Black Excellence is here. Revolutionary Matron is here. Kevin Care42 is here. NYC Sports Archives is here. NYC Beauties is here. I think I said Black Excellence. Peace to all of you. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I had a little bit of a computer issue, so I had to restart, but I'm back. I'm here, and I'm ready to go. What I'm looking for are the topics for the Shoot the Breeze. Before I get into the topics, just want to remind you guys that this podcast is a part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network I advise you to check out as well.
This is DAX. You tune into the Harsh Reality Podcast, providing you with social commentary on the news affecting our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where Black problems are addressed with Black solutions.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, indeed. Make sure to check out those shows that are also on KWAZ Radio. By the way, let me give a shout out. Now, I never know whether to say names or not. But, so you guys let me know in a note or something if it's okay to say your name. But thanks to you guys who recently donated to the Cash App. The Cash App is $bitter, BITTERMEDZ, Bitter Meds is the Cash App. We're getting close to that goal of being able to pay for a 1-year service where we can get the podcast on all the podcasting apps, right? The preferred podcasting apps, right? So we're almost there. I'll let you guys know as soon as we get there. And as soon as we get there, you'll start to see all of these episodes that we've been doing, that I've been doing as a live stream. All of them will start to show up on those apps. They'll be edited for conciseness, etc. So we're almost there. So thank all of you who donated in the last few days. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. Okay, hold on. So just a reminder. This is an important reminder too. For the Shoot the Breeze episodes, there is a specific channel on the podcast episodes on the Discord. There's where you should post the Shoot the Breeze topics. When the Shoot the Breeze topics or any topic is placed somewhere where it's not supposed to be, where it doesn't fit naturally, it becomes difficult to follow up and to find it again. I want to keep some order on the Discord so that people can find what they're looking for. When they go to a certain channel, they're finding the information that corresponds to that channel, and not to be confused in any kind of way. So Shoot the Breeze episodes, join the Discord, post your topic ideas, under the podcast category, the podcast episode category, there's a Shoot the Breeze channel there. Post your comments there. That said, let me post the first topic. First topic is, and by the way, as far as the t-shirt giveaway, I know you guys haven't gotten the t-shirts yet. It's because I haven't gotten them yet, and I apologize for that. I should have thought it through a little bit more. I should have had an inventory of t-shirts around, so that's what I'm working on now, getting an inventory of t-shirts so that when I bring back the t-shirt giveaway, you get your t-shirt immediately. I hate the fact that I'm so behind in getting t-shirts out to those who want t-shirts. But the first topic is Asians using the N-word. Asians using the N-word. Now, I don't know how much I can say about that, because, I mean, obviously, right, we are not supposed to endure, accept, tolerate anyone calling us that word. In fact, it's a shame that it's really a shame that black folks call one another that word. And I've heard all the different bull jive about, well, we're retaking the word and giving it our meaning and blah blah blah. Nah, doesn't really work like that. Not when you have a specific enemy who will call you out your name like that, right? But I saw an article a little while ago from San Francisco, where there's a high Asian population, and the title said, Asians, the N-word isn't ours to use, stop saying it. So I'll read some of the article. I don't think it's too long. It says, last semester I was deep into my note-taking for my economics class while also watching Hassan Minhaj's Netflix special, Homecoming King, when I was startled in hearing him say the N-word out loud. To be clear, Minhaj said it in the context of racial slurs that were thrown at him as a child, including the specific epithet, San N-word. San nigga. I was still discomforted by his ease in claiming a word that didn't belong to non-black people of color. On a hunt for another perspective, I only found one post which addressed what I thought was a huge controversy. It was only published just last December, and Minhaj's special has been out since 2017. So why did I choose to write about this now during Black History Month? It's because I think it's high time that we, as the Asian American community, do some self-educating and take the burden off of our black community. The conversation is still relevant now in 2021, when just this past week, New York Times reporter Donald McNeil Jr. was revealed to have been reprimanded based on student complaints he had used racial slurs and racist language while leading a Times-sponsored trip to Peru back in 2019. Thinking back to high school, I still remember distinctly hearing teenage boys using the N-word to refer to each other. They were not black, they were Asian. Hey, nigga, pass the ball, they would say to each other on the basketball court. Jimmy Yang, a Chinese-American comedian, encapsulated the awkwardness of holding these conversations about ownership of racial slurs in a joke where he asked his black friend if he can sing along as the N-word comes up in a rap song. His black friend replies, quote, is it cool if I call you a chink? A ching-chong, rice-eating motherfucker? End of quote. The crowd roars with laughter. Of course, the answer is no. The N-word was used historically by whites as a derogatory term towards blacks to dehumanize and further justify slavery and de jure or Jim Crow segregation. While we as a society have mainly come to consensus that the word is bad, even censoring books like The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and To Kill a Mockingbird in the classroom, the word still exists in pop culture and rap songs, and colloquially in the black community. So you see what's going on here. Even in this conversation here, right? This person is letting you know that, hey, the word is really out here in mainstream because you black folks tend to call each other that and use it in hip-hop music. You can't reappropriate such a negative word, not a word that our ancestors, you know, that's the last word they heard while being lynched. To continue. And perhaps the untouchable aspect of the word is what gives it a hardened edge, and why for the Asian teenage boys at my high school, it was a way to exert their hypermasculinity and athleticism on the court. Ta-Nehisi Coates brilliantly breaks down the logic and reasoning to why certain words shouldn't be used by certain demographics. Context matters, he says. His wife versus a stranger calling him honey. Drawing upon another example, he doesn't join his wife when she and her friend call each other bitch. My brother stopped making that's gay jokes after I came out to him. On some level, he realized that these negative connotations surrounding non-heterosexual orientations were harmful towards me. But it isn't always easy to shift directions or hold critical conversations about the weight and meaning of words. This past summer, during protests in support of Black Lives Matter, there was a business professor at the University of South Carolina who was thrown into a controversy over the use of a Chinese word that sounded like the N-word. I've heard of this before. Over dinner, a friend told our family a story of how she was one time sitting with her friends at a restaurant. They were talking excitedly to each other and pointing out the things in the menu they wanted to order. A black patron nearby began to frown and glare at them. They didn't understand why until they realized their use of the word, and it's some Chinese glyphs, which is nage, right? Or naga or something like that, or sometimes pronounced nage in Mandarin, sounding a lot like a racial slur, right? It's commonly used phrase in Chinese meaning that. It's a filler word when we don't know what to say, or an expression when we point to something. As someone who knows very elementary Chinese, it's phrase that I rely upon a lot when I'm trying to express directions or explain something in my broken speech. There are also other phrases in foreign languages that sound like racial slurs. Yeah, I'm not gonna read all of that. Anyway, down to the bottom here, it says, educating ourselves about the N-word is just the first step. If you appreciate black culture, black artists, if you love black people, you must recognize this is not enough. We have to commit to the cause of dismantling racism in its present forms that perpetuate stereotypes that harm both Asian and black communities. That means showing up in whichever way we can. Whether that's supporting local black-owned businesses, speaking up for your co-workers experiencing workplace harassment so that they are not alone, or privately educating your community, this is all part of the work. We must recognize that we are in a collective struggle, and our freedoms are heightened when we stand in solidarity together. Okay, whatever. In the chat room, Kevin KL42 says, we have to circle the wagons, especially when it comes to these vultures. We have to understand they're not our friends. They come around us when they want or need something, but kick us in the ass. When they get what they need, rinse and repeat. Tired of that clown in blackface, China Mac. So if you guys don't know, China Mac is an Asian hip-hop artist who appears on the Vlad TV platform. To be honest with you, outside of the Vlad TV platform, I've never heard of China Mac before. I've never heard of his music, never seen his image and likeness, never even heard the term China Mac. Only when I looked up, I went and I looked it up, I was able to find some bullshit ass music that he does, which is not like some people say he's some pioneering whatever, not based on the quality of your music. But China Mac is one of these dudes who's out here, the yo type of Asian, right? The N-word type of Asian, But if you miss and go and call his people a chink or something like that, he'll have big problems with you, right? And what really bothers me with the China Mac thing, there's this black man named damn it, I just forgot his name. What's his name again? What's the black fella from Vlad TV again, who has the podcast, the Not a Mean podcast? Like, how could I forget this? God damn. Someone in the chat room, give me the dude's name.
Concert with Lil Uzi Vert. He uses the N-word profusely.
Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, this Lord Jamar, this black man is on Vlad TV, and he says it's okay for China Mac to use the N-word. He's a part of the hip-hop family and all that kind of stuff. You see, this is the problem. By the way, music is one of the most intersectional art forms that there is out there, particularly black music. Because when you look at who runs black music, who makes the money, who calls the shots, it's not black people most times. It's everyone else. Right? But Lord Jamar is a real punk for doing that shit, saying that he gets a pass. China Mac does not get a pass. If he's around me when he says it, it's a problem. Right? It's a problem. A and O says spirit. A and O didn't say anything else before, so I don't know what spirit means. Sometimes you guys do this weird thing where you just write a word and then I don't know what it means. The pro-black perspective is here saying brethren. So again, I gotta ask, is brethren a greeting here, or like what's going on here? Uncertain, right? Yeah, Kevin K says Lord Jamar. A and O says the only way out is through the spirit. Oh boy. A and O, can you elaborate on that, please? Through the spirit, that's the only way out, huh? Okay. Black Excellence says, to me, hip-hop has been tarnished first by the corporations, then by outsiders. They have to understand outsiders are not part of our culture. NYC Sports Archive says we have no friends. Revolutionary Matron says no one should use the word. No one else uses a derogatory word to try to honor their people. And the B and the H words do not inspire camaraderie. Absolutely. Right? She says exactly, we have no friends. Right? Kevin K says Lord Jamal was part of the group Brand Nubian. That's correct. A conscious group at the time, yes. And he says, I'm disappointed in him, but we have to charge him to the game. Right? So that's Lord Jamal, and that's my take on the Asians and the N-word. I mean, there's only one take I could have for that, which is I don't appreciate it. Right? The next comment actually should have been a part of the first, but I didn't copy paste it. Charleston White calling out China Mac and the Asian community. I mean, I think we've discussed that now. We have no friends. Asians are not our friends. And so, you know, the Peter Liang thing, if you weren't aware that Asians were not our friends, the Peter Liang thing, where Peter Liang, the Asian cop who killed, what's his name again? Lakai Gurley, in Brooklyn. You know, those Asians went out there and protested against the fact that charges were brought to that guy, right? So that means to say that you guys were hoping for him to get the same treatment as white folks. So you guys wanted to, you know, the white treatment. Are you guys hearing me well? Because I don't know what the pro-black perspective meant by brethren, unless that's a greeting. Do I sound right? Just making sure that I sound right here. So the next topic is, I guess is a topic. I'm just gonna post it as is. A Kai girly, yeah. I'll just post it as is. Staying away from outsiders' neighborhood. Now, I do believe it was last week, could have been the week before, when I was asked about Sundown Town. I do believe that was last week. I think Life with Nelly asked about Sundown Towns. And, you know, like I said then, I'll say it again now. We have to start to institute somewhat of a sundown town in our neighborhoods, right? If you're choosing to stay in America, then that's what you're gonna have to try and do. And by the very same concept, stay out of other people's neighborhood, right? Consider it territories. Consider other people's neighborhood enemy territories and stay out of it. Kevin K reminds us that D.A. Ken Thompson died right after letting Peter Liang go. He got his karma, right? So staying away from outside his neighborhood is pretty straightforward, in that if you understand you have no friends and everyone is your enemy, stay out of their boundaries, stay out of their territories, right? Does anyone else have anything to say to that point? While I copy the next topic that was given to me on the Discord. Now this next topic should be a good one, but I don't have all the information on it. You guys might know more than me, and if you know more than me, step up to the plate and speak on it. Which reminds me, because this happened last week. If you're giving a shoot the breeze topic, right? And it's a shoot the breeze topic that I don't really know anything about, and you're in the chat room, I'm gonna ask you to elaborate. Right? If you present the topic, I'm gonna ask you to elaborate on the topic, and I'm going to expect you to elaborate on the topic, right? Else it doesn't make sense for me to even bring up the topics, because again, there's certain things I don't concern myself with, to be honest. There's certain things I don't concern myself with in depth, I should say. And when those kind of topics come up, I let you know straight up. I don't know anything about it, but if you're here and you present the topic, you gotta push the narrative, right? So this next one is a similar type of thing. Before I post it, I'll just read the last comments in the chat. Black Excellence says to me, it's getting real in these streets. When it comes to these neighborhoods, we do not need to go to them. They are not our friends, but enemies. All right. NYC Beauty says to Black Excellence, they stay in their neighborhood. All right. Revolutionary Matron says the problem is that they come for our towns, but we try to establish our own. So what Revolutionary Matron said is exactly right, which is why I said, if you decide to ultimately stay here and have your future generations stay here, then unfortunately you're gonna have to deal with the fact that anything you build, these folks can destroy. As a pro-black perspective once said, you're just a population inside another man's nation. As long as you and your future ones decide to stay here, expect destruction. When you build, they will destroy. They will cut you back down the sides. Right? Revolutionary Matron also says right now in Detroit, the major is carrying an illegal debt service that has leveraged over 50% of their future revenues. Interesting. You know, Revolutionary Matron, you're in Detroit. I wanted to ask you something, if you don't mind. Some years ago, Dr. Claude Anderson talked about these cool cities that were going to be popping up, and he said Detroit was going to be a major cool city. Do you remember hearing about this cool city thing? And is it happening in Detroit? Do you remember hearing about these cool cities that Dr. Anderson was talking about? And do you see it? Do you see it? The pro-black perspective says, was just saying you said brethren, then cut back to say brother. We understand the Caribbean lingo, bro. Okay. All right. Kevin Kerr says soon they will set up debtors' prisons again. I mean, they have debtors' prisons still. Remember, what's the black man's name who got shot in the back running away from a cop? I think the cop is in jail, and I think he's getting abused in there too, which is good. But a couple years back, there was a cop. If you remember, there's a video of it too. I can't remember the black man's name, which is a shame. But he was shot in the back and killed. And one of the things that came up about that situation was that he was in debt. And in being in debt, he had already been locked up before for a certain debt. I think a child support payments or something. And he was in more debt, and he was afraid. The reason why he ran was he was afraid that because of this debt, he was going to be thrown in jail again. Right? And that guy, the guy I'm talking about, is like an ex-military guy too, by the way. He was a veteran. Right? The cop was Michael Slager. Kevin Carfoy too came through that. That's right. The cop was Michael Slager. I forgot the black man's name, but there is still debtors court, debtors prison out here, you know, and a lot of black folks are tied up in it, believe me. In fact, most black folks are not in jail for violent crimes or something like that. They're really there for something like debt or something of that nature, right? Revolutionary Matron, to my question, says yes, Detroit is being gentrified at an incredible rate. The city of Detroit is on an international border, has tons of fresh water, and was black run. That's true. That's an interesting point. She goes on to say Coleman Young could only be bought by black people, but the leadership now is interested in their own individual advancement. They're selling out the entire city as a whole. Kim and Carfoy 2 comes from and says Walter Scott was the black man that was killed by Michael Slager. Absolutely right. That's it. Walter Scott. Right? Kevin Kerr earlier said, look at Germany. There are many towns that were raised because the Mzungu population died out. All right, so let's get to the next prompt. The next prompt is one that I'm going to lean on Kevin Kerr 42, who posted this on the Discord. He says, becoming a self-publisher and using crowdfunding. There's still a few comments coming in for the last prompt. Look at the scam the police in Ferguson was running on black people. That's Kevin Kerr 42. Revolutionary Matron says the residents are fighting hard to reclaim their rights and replace them. I assume you mean the black residents, right? Right. So yeah, the cool cities is a thing that Dr. Claude Anderson was talking about years ago, and clearly it's coming true. You know, by way of gentrification. But I think in his talk, gentrification was just the first step. The ultimate step, I forgot what it was now, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. So our next topic is becoming a self-publisher and using crowdfunding. Again, I'm not, because I haven't done it yet. The Pro Black Perspective has done it several times now. Kevin Kerr has done it now. What is it that we should be discussing in terms of this topic, right? I do a quick search and I find this article. It's called 5 Reasons Self-Publishers Should Crowdfund Their Books, right? Well, number 1, crowdfunding is used to pay for self-publishing. Independent book publishing can be an expensive business, as many aspiring authors have discovered. The reality is that the process is costly. Covers need to be designed, a professional developmental editing service may be required, formatting needs to be taken care of, and of course, the all-important marketing of the finished product needs to take place. Number 2, case studies speak of crowdfunding success. Several authors have achieved success as they reach their crowdfunding targets and raise money for self-publishing. Their successes have effectively put the deceiving self-publishing myths to bed once and for all. Of course, not every book attracts investors, and even when they do, not all authors who go through the crowdfunding process achieve a roaring success. Number 3, crowdfunding attracts book sales. All right, I can see that. Crowdfunding is similar to social media sites in that it offers a platform to advertise your product. Authors can take advantage of this opportunity to sell more books because as investors browse through potential investment targets, they notice your book. All right. Number 4, greater rewards through crowdfunding are a reality. Just when you thought the potential for success with crowdfunding was limited to raising funds for self-publishing, more good news is available. With the number of crowdfunding platforms available, authors' successes can attract the interest of traditional publishers. Specific platforms aimed at helping authors to raise money also do publishing. With the right approach to campaigns, they can help authors use these channels to possibly obtain a traditional publishing contract. Some crowdfunding platforms would be Unbound, Indiegogo, Fundly, Kickstarter, etc. And last, number 5, crowdfunding offers credibility. Authors can choose to engage in a crowdfunding campaign before they've even written a book. Others will select crowdfunding to bring finished work to market. Either way, the attraction that these platforms provide gives the author and their work credibility. Why? Because they contain the potential to attract an avid following. Interesting. So I know we have, let me go back to the chat. I know we have several authors in the room. I'll ask this to the Pro Black Perspective, who has published several books, and to my knowledge, I don't think he crowdfunded for those books, and I believe he self-edited and all that type of stuff himself. So, you know, I'll ask Onitase, what's the, you know, how come you've never decided to crowdfund your books? And actually, based on what I just read, it might not be a bad idea. Kevin Kerr, did you crowdfund for your works? Right? Kevin Kerr says, I learned how to use InDesign. Also, you can use a self-publishing site called Blurb. Goes on to say, I have networks that I lean on to help. My first published book was back in 2009. With technology and social media, you can make it work. You no longer need to go to the publishing houses anymore. Those houses rip you off all the time. Right. So, Revolutionary Matron asks the crew here a very interesting question. Is anyone here interested in doing a mini seminar about self-publishing or crowdfunding to share their knowledge? Revolutionary Matron, have you ever done a crowdfunding or self-published yourself? Or is this something you actually just want to learn from someone else who's done it? Right? Alex Ebohon says, hi guys, I'm Alex, new on here from Nigeria, living America. So welcome to the group, Alex. Appreciate you coming through. How'd you learn about this platform? Right? Revolutionary Matron says, also Amazon is becoming a supply of everything and squeezing out all other vendors. That's true. Kevin K42 says, I print overseas. It's a lot cheaper, but you can also use BookBaby. I use GoFundMe for crowdfunding. Okay. So Kevin K has used GoFundMe before for crowdfunding. I didn't know that. Okay. He says, when you publish your own book, you have power because it is yours. Once it is successful, the publishing houses will come to you on your terms. Yep, I can see that. You always want to own your thing. As a matter of fact, me and Pro Black Perspective have talked about this before. You know, the reason you start a business in this day and age, unlike back in the day, several decades back, you know, a generation or two back, when you would create a Koku and Sons, and you pass it on to your sons, and they pass it on to their sons, and blah blah blah. In this day and age, the real heat is you create a business, something that you have ownership of, and you sell it. When it you increase its value, and then you sell it. Right? That's really the move. So if you're going to get into the book publishing game, you want to own that yourself. Make it hot. Right? Make it hot. And, you know, perhaps others come along and try to do business with you and buy your finished product. Right? Daily Affirmation by Pauline is here. She says, I am preparing my journal for publishing. Any information you provide is appreciated. Right? Kevin K42 says he's crowdfunding right now. I did not know that. Or did I know that? Yeah, maybe I did know that. Kevin K tells Daily Affirmation by Pauline to link him in the Discord. He can help. That's great. The Pro Black Perspective says crowdfunding sounds good, but it'll depend on your costs. I think if you're paying artists and editors, you should definitely crowdfund. Right. Because, like I said, the Pro Black Perspective, to my knowledge, formats and edits and does all the stuff for his books. And he has his ways, and you know, maybe one day he'll share with others what programs or whatever he uses to do that. But if you're doing all that work yourself, you save on that money. But if you're going to crowdfund, if you're going to be paying people to do all those different things, then crowdfunding might be the way to go. Kevin Kerr says he wants to help Revolutionary Matron as well. Kevin Kerr says, to the Pro Black Perspective, yes, for me, it is coming from overseas. I have to pay for shipping. He says he also uses Alibaba to find a printer. Okay, that's good to know. But again, you see, this is where I would like, and I think the Pro Black Perspective may have done this in the past with one of his books, if not all, to find a black publisher, right? Like, you know, if you're dealing with Alibaba, I mean, you're dealing with the Chinese, you know, it'll be nicer to keep those funds kind of amongst our people. Revolutionary Matron says, I've never done it. Want to learn. Kevin K42, can we meet on the Discord after, or should I send you an email? Kevin K42 says, J.A. Rogers did it during the time of segregation, I think he did it in the 1930s. He published many books. We have no excuses today with more options. Alex E. Bohan says Daily Affirmations shared this podcast with me. Well, I appreciate that from Daily Affirmations, right? That's a sign that folks are sharing the podcast and spreading the word. So I appreciate that. And again, welcome to the family. Kevin Kerr says to me and Revolution Matron, we should have an after show in the Discord to discuss this. Kevin Kerr says he's learning as I go. Right now, I sold a few of the books I publish. It is going fast. Kevin Kerr, feel free to drop a link to your book as well, or even to your crowdfunding if you want. I don't mind. Right? Kevin Kerr says there are really no black printers over here. A publisher is one thing, but most, if not all, publishers print in Asia. Okay. All right. So you guys can definitely go to the Discord at the end of the show. Go to the lounge and have a conversation. I'll pop in for a minute after the show. Right. So that's good to know. So that's good for us to know too, because we have these writing prompts going on in the Discord. These writing prompts, the way I see it, the way I envision it, I don't know if you guys have the same or similar vision, but you can put together a compendium of stories, right? Where you can put together a compendium of stories. We'll take what we all agree to be the better stories for each prompt, right? It doesn't have to be a huge, big deal. It doesn't have to be hundreds upon hundreds of pages long, but just put together a compendium of these short stories, a black reader, if you will. I grew up hearing about and actually reading some of what the British had called the royal readers. Why not have the African readers or black readers or what have you? So those are some ideas. So it's good to then know what you can do in terms of getting the work out there. And so if Kevin Kerr has information, Revolutionary Matron is willing to learn, I'll stop by, like I said. Let's work on that too. Let's get that information on the Discord. Coach Pete is here saying blessed family. Blessing to Coach Pete, man. Good people right there. The next prompt is, I've talked about it before. I talked about it recently on Shoot the Breeze too, but I'll post it all the same. Right. So the next prompt is the opioid crisis. The opioid plague in the white community. So what else do we need to discuss about the opioid problem in the white community? I applaud it. Because when black folks was suffering from crack addiction, they had no problem. Right? When folks were suffering from, when black folks were out here strung out and had the dope head lean, and photographers were taking pictures of them and posting them all about, and I think even winning prizes, right? Showing our suffering right up close and right up close front and center. Hey, all's fair in war, right? You come back and you have your problems. I say some of you guys who are photographers should go and take pictures of them. Strung out and looking bad out here like zombies, right? Kevin Kerr just posted his GoFundMe. Kevin Kerr just posted his GoFundMe. You guys can check that out. Right, the link should be clickable. You guys can check it out. Yep, so you can see You can see his goal. You can see where he's at. I'll definitely donate later on this week to the GoFundMe. I think I knew about it, but it slipped my mind. I forgot. I'll definitely donate as well. Revolutionary Matron says, I resent the attention it's getting. Yeah, I mean, to be frank, I would say not enough of them are hooked on these opioids, as far as I'm concerned. Right? Revolutionary Matron says the whole government was a part of our destruction, and now Mr. North is portraying himself as a victim of circumstance. I think she's referring to Oliver North. Right? Well, what's crazy too is like it's so crazy the way Black society handles our traitors, which is they don't. Because real talk, Freeway Rick should have been handled for his partner too. It's a crying shame. The black dude who was the incel, right, in the community, right, helping to get this garbage to pregnant mothers and all kind of stuff, right? Who was only focused on the money that he could make from it, right? Like, yeah, he went to jail and yeah, he got out, whatever, but he should have been handled too. He's not a hero. And here we have, rappers again with the bullshit. One comes along and calls himself Rick Ross. It's just crazy. NYC Beauty says to me, I photograph these junkies in Manhattan all the time. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Someone here earlier was talking about the spirit. I wonder if they're still here, because my spirit says that's a good thing. I am overjoyed in my spirit for what, right now you're doing the Lord's work, as far as I'm concerned, right? And I agree with Revolutionary Matron. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm supposed to feel sorry for y'all now? Revolutionary Matron says Rick should have been handled, but people literally wanted to stand up for him because of his role. Yeah. Yeah. Kevin K42 says they're having a bad time in Staten Island with this plague. Recently, there was a string of bank robberies, but Patrick Lynch and Ed Mullins want to talk about black crimes. I don't know if I should share it, but Kevin K has been doing some funny stuff. I mean, just hilarious stuff, man. But it has to do with the fact that, he's out here pointing out, again, doing the Lord's work, pointing out the inconsistencies, right? You have all this going on here in New York City and Staten Island, right? Which I didn't know, by the way, because I'm hardly ever in Staten Island. But they want to talk about black crimes and blacks against Asians and all types of dumb shit. Kevin K says you see them on Houston and Broadway doing the lean in the mornings. There's a methadone clinic there. Is there really a methadone clinic on Houston and Broadway? I didn't know that. Oh, so they're out there doing their little lean with it type thing. Okay. So Kevin K is cool with the idea. Yes, share the audios of me going in on these pigs. Yeah, Kevin K tends to call these PDs and call them out on their hypocrisy, particularly Pat Lynch and Ed Mullins and them, But that's what to be honest, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to play dumb to what's going on with them and criminalize this population within what they consider their nation. They're doing what they're supposed to do. We gotta do what we're supposed to do. Don't give a good goddamn about these folks. I don't care nothing about who's talking about. The spirit is the way to get out of it. The spirit ain't the way to get out of it. Unless you're talking about a vengeful spirit, right? Let me find the next topic. So that was Kevin Care's topics that we discussed so far. let me go down to the Shoot the Breeze channel where other topics were posted, and I think some good ones were posted here actually. This one really got my interest actually. Well, this topic got my interest. So the next topic is marriage or cohabitation. Cohabitation is frowned upon. Marriage is approved by society, yet many marriages end in divorce, and that's frowned upon. Kevin Kiss also says to me, most of these cops' family members and neighbors are on these drugs and more. I feel you. I mean, most of these cops are on drugs, right? But the next topic is marriage or cohabitation. And I'd like to hear a lot from the ladies who are here with us. I know there's not many, but from the ladies who are here with us tonight, I'd like to hear from you guys here. But of course, both genders are welcome to speak on it, right? Marriage or cohabitation, right? Cohabitation is frowned upon. Marriage is approved. Yet many marriages end in divorce, and that's frowned upon. Revolutionary Matron says, I don't care what you do, as long as you build black families and support the black community. I guess that's a response to this prompt so far. I guess that's a response to this prompt. I'm not certain. But my take on it is that the truth of the matter is that the generations before us and you know, some generations before them too, were never honest about marriage. Institutions need to be updated, right? Institutions need to be updated every so often. And the institution of marriage is almost, to me, has never been updated. Well, I mean, if you go back to the whole Anglican Church thing, that was an update to it, right? But for me personally, I think that you gotta take a moment and look at the society that you live in and see if these institutions serve people the way they perhaps once did, if in fact they ever did. For example, there is this thing where if you get divorced as a man, you have to give up 50% of your holdings to a woman. And most men today will tell you it just doesn't make sense. Even some women will tell you that doesn't make sense. The reason it doesn't make sense today is because most women are quote unquote independent, working, making their own money. In fact, especially in black society, but mostly women are more educated than their men and making as much. And again, in some instances in black society, making more than their men. Let's be real about it. And so to require that men have to give up half their assets because a relationship failed, you know, that's enough to give pause to other people to not want to get into relationships at all, right? So you have to always reconsider certain things. I think marriages haven't been working for a long time. I think they're a little bit unrealistic, and I think as the world turns every day, as technology enters our lives even more, the institution of marriage is going to be very difficult to maintain. Listen, I grew up seeing situations, and I've talked about this in the show before, but I've grown up seeing situations where you go to church, for example, and you see husband and wife, you know, coming in church and sitting together and singing their little hymns and all the old shit. And then you go by their house, and lo and behold, the husband is living in a small house behind the main house. All that shit was just for show. right? There's a particular person I'm thinking about. When I realized that, I was shocked, right? In my lifetime growing up. So it is something that needs to be, reevaluated. But like Revolutionary Matron says, whichever way you go, cohabitation, marriage, your job is one job: build a black family, support the black community, right? So I actually agree with what she said there. Coach Pete says the only way we can get out of our situation is love, unity, and trust. Love, unity, and trust. To Coach Pete's comment, I would ask, love of whom, unity with whom, and trust of whom? Because we got to be very clear about those concepts, right? Like if one of my favorite musicians all time is Bob Marley, but if we're honest about Bob Marley, for example, right, a lot of that love and blah and blah and blah, a lot of that stuff he's talking about is like some integrationist type thing, and it's to be expected considering who his father was, right? But we gotta start really talking specifically about black love, black unity, black trust, nothing else. Black excellence says, I believe if you love someone, you stay with them through thick and thin. Marriage is a business contract. If you have children with the lady, you stay and raise the children, right? Okay. Kevin K42 says black family first. Do we have any other comments on that? But I think it's an important one to discuss. Marriage or cohabitation. Cohabitation is frowned upon. Again, that cohabitation being frowned upon, that's a religious thing. Outside of religion, who cares? Outside of religion, who really cares if you live together? Or like the word we used to use back in the day, shack up together. Who cares? Right? And what's so wild about it is the same society that would frown upon cohabitation, right, and instead preferring marriage, right, they're not saying anything or doing anything about the state of affairs when it comes to marriage, right? The divorce rate stays high, right? Why are there so many divorces today, right? When they've done their research, they found that a lot of divorces are due to a lack of commitment, are due to too much arguing, infidelity, marrying too young, unrealistic expectations, lack of equality in the relationship, lack of preparation for marriage, and abuse, and those are heavy points. I was telling a young lady this the other day, right? And this is true for both men and for women. Listen, if you started sleeping and having sex, let's say you started in your mid to late teens, you did that up through your 20s. Now you're 30, right? Heading to 35, or you've arrived at 35. Now you want to get married because you feel like this clock that people talk about is ticking, right? But listen, if you've been jumping from dick to dick since you were 15, you're not prepared to be married. Your whole body and psyche and emotions are tied to the idea that you have a different dude every, couple of months, or every couple of weeks or whatever. So that whole idea of being prepared for marriage, people don't talk about that enough. And those who frown upon cohabitation are definitely not talking about the idea that, people are ill prepared for marriage, right? The other big thing is unrealistic expectations. Let me tell you something. When you live with someone, you start to realize just how difficult it is to be around people, man. That's the reality of it, right? One of the other points I mentioned was marrying too young. Some people marry too young, right? Some people marry young again because of that church thing. I've seen this. I've known people who got married as soon as they possibly could when I was a youth, right, back home. And when you really boil it down, why are they doing this? They're doing this to be able to jump each other's bones in the sack. Come on. Right? They do it just, they're getting married just to be able to, quote unquote, legally, in terms of religion, being able to lay down with one another. Right? One of the reasons for divorce is infidelity. And as we live in this world now where it's not like it was in my grandparents' time or grandparents' time, where, it was a little bit more difficult to be out there doing stuff, especially if you live in these small places, right? But now you're on your phone, you're connected to people in Ghana, Brazil, Canada, where KW Dawn is from. Shout out to KW Dawn, right? So people aren't addressing those things. And that's why I think the institution of marriage, for all those reasons I just gave, needs to be rethought or definitely revamped. Revolutionary Matron says sometimes staying to raise the children is the worst thing you can do. She goes on to say, my parental units were together for the sake of their children, and we hated it. The divorce once we were adults. And I gotta say, good for them. But bad that they stuck through it just for the kids. That's a bad idea. Revolutionary Matron says a family actually gives you skills and tools which does not require marriage. I agree with that. And like Kevin K 42 said earlier, it's a business really. In more simpler times, marriage was just a contract. And it was a way to transfer wealth, right? We've gotten into this thing where marriage is this emotional only thing. It's emotions only. And that doesn't really serve us, because eventually feelings and all that shit fade, right? But if we go about it with a mix of business, we don't want to see our business fail, do we? Right? So then we will work on ourselves, at least for the business of its sake, right? But Revolutionary Matron makes a good point. A family, just having a family itself gives you skills and tools that you can use, and no marriage is required for that, right? She says there are roles that each parent must fulfill to their children. The children and their development must be the sole focus of each parent, no matter what their status is to each other. And I agree with that. Kevin K 42 says Verona, I guess that means Corona, exposed the Mzungus last year. They were just at each other's throats, no matter the liquor stores were left open. Okay. KW Don says Bob Marley spawned children by non-black women. Yeah, he had some children by some non-black women. Ziggy is married to a woman born in Israel to Iranian expatriates. Yes, he is. And so he, like an asshole, he falls on the side of Israel in the conflict. Not that I care too much about those folks and their conflict, but he definitely sides with the oppressor because of his wife. Kevin K 42 says, I had a girlfriend that wanted me to get her an 8-carat engagement ring. She wanted to impress her friends. Now she was lonely. She was engaged to another guy, but it was called off. Kevin K 42 goes on to say, Professor Gustav, my professor in anthropology, once told me about the young getting married. Love has nothing to do with it. Yeah, it's about sex. So I appreciated it when I saw this prompt in the Discord. I really did appreciate it because I think it's something we need to reevaluate a lot of these things. You know, when you talk about marriage, a thing that no one really talks about, when you see marriages work and work and work and work for years and years and years, a lot of that has to do with someone, if not both, but usually someone has to make themselves a little bit less of themselves, right? I've witnessed it. I've seen where I've known guys who got married and you barely could recognize them now. They become just yes men and soft-spoken yes men. Like, it's a shame. You know, usually someone has to lessen themselves in those situations, right? But thanks for that prompt. That was a good one, right? The next prompt is actually a good one too, right? The next prompt I'll post right after the station ID break.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
This is DAX. You tune into the Harsh Reality Podcast, providing you with social commentary on the news affecting our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the pro-black perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, indeed. Make sure to check out those shows on KWAZ Radio. KW Dawn says the best time for a female to get pregnant is 18 to 30. After 35, it is considered a high-risk pregnancy. And we're seeing a lot of that happening now. A lot of folks are getting pregnant after 35 now, right? A lot of folks are getting married after 35 now, and it's weird. I'll put it like that. It's a weird phenomenon because there's folks who want to sow their oats all over the place with everybody, and then at 35 you want to push a child through this crime scene, right, into the world, and then expect great Africans to be born from that kind of foolishness. You got to prepare yourself for that stuff. The Muse Observer says, I have found that for the most part, it's women who are lessening themselves. Okay, that's it. That's interesting. I know for sure that used to be the case. I know you go back a generation or two, that was definitely the case. It was the women who were lessening themselves. In this new age now, where women have, what's the word? When women have a better footing, so to speak, to me it seems that it's men who are lessening themselves. But again, don't just go by me, right? There's a lot of things happening here. Let me try to pick up on it. Sankofa Knowledge says, greetings family, I am new here. Kevin Care 42 sent me here. Love your channel, very positive. Okay, well, greetings. Thank you for coming through. Thanks to Kevin Care for putting you on to us. The Revolutionary Matron says, I actually think that we should go back to a system that allows the young to have babies and the elders to raise the children. Only have grandchildren, never children. I'd like Revolutionary Matron to explain that a little bit more. She says, I actually think that we should go back to a system that allows the young to have babies and the elders to raise the children. Only have grandchildren, never children. Huh. Coach B says, trust in each other and respect. All right. Bemused Observer says, still the case. Again, Bemused Observer, that might be what you observe wherever you are. But I'm telling you what I see overwhelmingly. Right? But thanks for that comment. Revolutionary Matron says, while you are young, we should be able to harness all of our economic capacity. Sankofa Knowledge says, we should abandon this system version of marriage and do our own. I'm down for that. I'm down for that. Make sure if you're here, make sure to hit the like button. You know, hit the like button like Derico Cooper says. Show your attendance by hitting the like button. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And click the bell to be notified when I'm on and when I'm producing new content on the channel. All right. So, Revolutionary Matron, I'm kind of interested to hear about what you were talking about. I actually think that we should go back to a system. Is this an African system that you're talking about? We should go back to a system that allows the young to have babies. Okay, I get that. And the elders, like I guess grandparents, great-grandparents, to raise those children, right? So you only have grandchildren, never children. That part I can't understand. And then she says, while you are young, we should be able to harness all our economic capacity. Okay. So if Revolutionary Matron can just expound upon that point, right? That would be great. Revolutionary Matron says, in some African systems, the young are given to the elders, while the grandparents raise the children, passing on knowledge, skills, and information. So are the elders raising the babies, while the actual parents of the babies do what now? Are they out here hustling, fulfilling their economic capacity? Is that the full picture that you're putting together? Is that what we should be putting together? Just responding to a Facebook message here. All right, so the next prompt, as we still await to hear what Revolutionary Matron has to say, if I put that together correctly, the next prompt is about prejudice. Prejudices among each other. Why? How can we teach love of ourselves to the next generation? Right? Prejudice among each other. So, what are some of the prejudices that you guys see amongst ourselves? Revolutionary Matron says, yes, the parents go out to work. Okay. So we put that full picture together. So the full picture that Revolutionary Matron is saying is like, when you're young, have your kids, pass the kids off to the elders, right? The elders will give them, the children, that is, the small children, will raise them in the right way, while the young parents go out and hustle. So I'll tell you this, in the Caribbean, that's how a lot of that was done. Even to this day, a lot of that is still done that way. that has a problem too, because a lot of Caribbean folks, for example, go to America, go to the UK, leave these kids back in the home countries, and these kids are not treated well, right? The idea oftentimes is that these folks are away in the States and living it up nicely while these children are back home with the elders, you know, in these third world countries, and you know, and suffering, right? So that I get the approach. I've seen that approach before, and it oftentimes, not all the time, but a lot of time, it has a bad outcome. Trust me on this. Sankofa Knowledge says a great movie about prejudice amongst each other is School Days by Spike Lee. Global Black African Empowerment is here, saying Hotep to you too, sir. Oh, ma'am. I think it's sir. Right. Thanks all of you for being here. I appreciate you all for being here. Is Bemused Observer still here? I'm just checking something. Is Bemused Observer still here? But yeah, so our next prompt is prejudices among each other. Why? So what prejudices can we identify here as a group? What prejudices can we identify that occurs in Black society? We know currently there is the American African or the African in America versus the Africans elsewhere, Caribbean continent, etc. Right? But what are the other prejudices that we have? Or is that just it that we face the most? Right? Do we have a light skin, dark skin prejudice amongst our people? Is that a thing? Right? How can we teach love of ourselves to the next generation? You know, my answer to that personally is it's in the education. It's all in the education. Light skin, dark skin, whatever. Caribbean, continental, UK, American, whatever. You know, we come from one spot. We have a shared lineage, right? But Muse Observer is still here, saying, I agree with you concerning the grandparents raising children. Right. You know, so we have those things, but it's in the education. Right now, what we're seeing, a lot of these differences we're having is a miseducation. The continental African is miseducated about the American African, miseducated about Caribbean African, and those misunderstandings or lack of understandings are being inflated and pushed out there, and social media doesn't help. To use the words of D. Webb from the Harsh Reality podcast, social media, particularly Twitter, is a cesspool. And so bullshit is what's being promoted. But if we get back to, you know, and it's gonna be hard. I'm not here to try to fool anyone. Like it's just simply write it down in a book or something like that. But it's gonna be hard. But we gotta start to teach it to the young children and push the practice. What happens is, and it's true. It does happen in some cases. Within our society, we have black folks who will say, don't mess with them set of black folks because this, and this. And also we got these enemies of ours who are also telling us stuff like, you know, I like your group better than this other group of black folks here. Right? So we got that kind of bullshit going on and people are glomming onto it. If you were with me in my last episode, Kwame Brown has been making the rounds lately. Kwame Brown is more popular now than in his playing career. And one of the things this fool named Kwame said is that, you know, he ain't African. He's American. His people helped to build America. He's American. Why would I choose Africa and all this ocean? And he started talking about Nigerians. They don't like you and this, that, and the other. So when an idiot like that has a platform the size that they have, and they're spouting that bullshit that reinforces some of the other bullshit that's currently going on here in the States, that's where we have a problem. We have a big problem, and we have to counter it. And you know, we, not just here, not just in, but everywhere. We have to counter it. We have to start to realize that we're better together. We have more in common than we have different. And stop pulling this difference bullshit. You know, Black Excellence says it starts at home, educating the young to love being black. We have to cut back on the type of programs they watch. A lot of these shows teach self-hate. Excellent point. Revolutionary Matron says we also have a rift when it comes to educated versus uneducated, a college degree versus skilled trades or no trade. That's true too. Even in, again, going back to the Kwame Brown, to that video I played in the last episode, it starts off with him trying to clown some educated person. Listen, I know that these historically white colleges and universities, I know that they might not be the best thing for our folks, but for those of us who have passed through them and have a black consciousness, they're not the worst thing either. Let me repeat that. For those of us who have passed through them and have retained, right, and in some cases even deepened a black consciousness, you know, it's not the worst thing. And he was trying to talk shit about some lady who was trying to put him on to some game, but that's our problem. We tend to, as a group, to be very honest with you, we tend to listen to the quote-unquote uneducated. I'm by uneducated, I'm not talking about those who have not gone to college. I'm just talking about those who just don't know shit, whether they've gone to college or not, right? And there is a rift between college educated and trades. That should be that should have been killed off by now, that rift, because, you know, Booker T. Washington, again, if you know anything about anything, you'll know what Booker T. Washington did. You'll know the rationale behind it, right? You'll also look at the actual world. To be honest with you, a biologist is cool, but people don't call biologists over to fix their fucking leak, right? Folks who do construction, remodeling, plumbing, those are the folks who are really in demand. As cool as a biologist or a chemist or an astrophysicist is, that's all cool and stuff, but those are not folks who are in everyday high demand, right? Black Excellence says when you look at a lot of the cartoons, you see many of the characters are blonde hair and blue eyes. Even the animal characters are blonde hair and blue eyes. This will make the kids feel bad about, I guess, themselves. Revolutionary Matron says we have to have social clubs that bring together all these different types of people so that we can build together. That's a very good idea. That's a very good idea, right? Because a big part of our problem is that we don't socialize. As a matter of fact, a black guy who a lot of folks listen to in America is Neely Fuller. Neely Fuller talks about black folks shouldn't be around each other, right? The pro-black perspective says astrophysicists are in high demand. High demand by whom, though? And you know, black folks have a high demand for astrophysicists, right? Same thing with biologists. Biologists have a demand, but a demand by whom, right? chemistry majors have a demand, but by whom? Black Excellence says, another thing is skin bleaching. We have to stop this. Love your melanin. Revolutionary Matron says, we have the caste system in black society. We're always looking for an in-group to be a part of. Our enemy uses this and intersectional issues to separate us. We must end the cult of celebrity. It does not serve our community. Absolutely. All good points. Right? Kim Kerr says another thing too is you look at advertising and it's all about being light-skinned and straight hair and light eyes. Look at a lot of the hip-hop music videos, all light-skinned moles, rarely a dark one. Yeah, that's absolutely true. There was a time, you look at the Caribbean, you look at the UK, and probably here in the States too, but there was a time on television and in certain jobs, like the bank and stuff, right? You look at who's the newscasters and they were like light-skinned people. You go in the bank, it was like a light-skinned person, you know, who was a teller, right? I know it's changed a lot now, but there was a time where that was happening a whole lot. There was a time, maybe even still, because I don't watch music videos like that anymore, but there was a time when all the music videos had some light-skinned chicken, you know? Kevin Kerr says, this podcast and the Discord is a social club. We have to stick together, support each other. I appreciate that. All right? So, you know, that is all of the prompts I have for the Shoot the Breeze tonight. Right? But that last prompt was a good one too, in that we have to become focused on something positive and something that's positively black. If we don't do that, we'll never get anywhere. And the sad part is that the loudest voices, you know, there's an old saying that says the empty drums make the most noise. We're seeing that today. The loudest voices, the most seen, the most heard, the most discussed are folks who have very little knowledge of anything. For example, the Pro-Black Perspective did a series on the book Urugu that, to me, should have been a huge conversation amongst conscious folks. It should have been a huge conversation amongst conscious folks, right? The Abrahamic religions thing came out of that, I believe, but even that was on some, you know, again, the empty drums were making the most noise, even in that conversation, right? But we have a serious problem where we like entertainment too much. We like to listen and follow unserious people. And so this is why we don't do serious things. And the reality of it is, man, what we need is right there to be grabbed, if we're being honest. It's right there. It just takes a few tweaks of our mindset, of our outlook, regardless of what the enemy does. There's just a couple things we gotta do, right? This thing that I used to think it was a joke until I realized, no, people are dead serious about whose jollof rice is better. I mean, come on, man. For fuck's sake, we arguing about jollof rice? I'm gonna take a station break here. Any last comments, questions, you guys post it. I'll deal with it, and then we'll call that another episode of the Shoot the Breeze.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
This is DAX. You tune into the Harsh Reality Podcast, providing you with social commentary on the news affecting our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the pro-black perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, indeed. You know, be proud of where you're from, but always remember where we're ultimately from. I believe that Junkanoo in the Bahamas is better than Junkanoo in Jamaica or wherever, but that's not going to stop me from communing with Jamaicans or folks in Nigeria or wherever else, you know, a form of Junkanoo is carried out, right? You just gotta enjoy where you're from, but also enjoy others and enjoy them for who they are. Kevin Care42 says, we love too much drama. Unfortunately, true. The Pro-Black Perspective says, Dan, next week I should ask about video game streaming. Yeah, do that, man. Next week I ask a question about video game streaming, but right here, the Pro-Black Perspective asks, you think conscious folk should stream video games or not? That's actually a very good question. Right? That's actually a very good question. Sankofa Knowledge says to the Pro-Black Perspective, that is a big industry that will eventually surpass professional sports. But the problem is too many Muzungu supremacists. So I will say this, and I think I told the Pro-Black Perspective this before on Discord. I've been wanting to stream like a Mancala game, right? The Pro-Black Perspective now tells me we're not that Caribbean. Okay, we don't know what Junkanoo is. I'll talk about Junkanoo one day. I'll talk about that in the show one day. But it's an African celebration that actually I think is more so known or associated with the Bahamas, but in Jamaica, some parts of Jamaica, they actually carry out Junkanoo as well. I think Turks Islanders do it also. I know there's parts of Africa that does it in some form, and it's always interesting to see. You could look at African Junkanoo and you wouldn't be able to tell it from Bahamian Junkanoo. But the point I was making is that regardless of where it's from, regardless of where the jollof rice is from, just enjoy the shit and enjoy the people, right? But that question about streaming games, like I was saying, I wanted to be able to do like a Mancala type game thing on the Discord where folks, in fact, it was the earlier idea of the Shoot the Breeze, where we would just stream each other playing one another in groups or whatever, like Mancala and stuff like that, and talk about strategies and the history of the game and stuff like that. So I don't have a problem with streaming games if the game, you know, if the games make sense for us too, right? If it's just shoot 'em up, bang bang, blood splatter, you know, I don't know how much that does for us, but if it makes sense and you know, if it brings us together in some type of way, I have no problem with that. Okay, I see we get some comments here. Kevin Care says, look at how 3 NBA players were racially harassed this week. Oh yeah, that's a good point too. We didn't talk about that. Jerry Wallace is here. Jerry says, we have to concentrate on dropping all the labels in our community and lead with love. Love one another. Our strength is in our numbers. Their strength is keeping us separate. Absolutely. Well stated. Right? Kevin Care talks about Russell Westbrook, Trae Young, Kyrie Irving were harassed. AS with Kyrie Irving complaining about Boston fans. one of the most racist cities in the United States. Philly is up there with them. Yeah, let me tell you. I mean, listen. Again, you have to understand the predicament you're in. When these black folks go into the NBA with their skills and talent, right, you are nothing more than a participant in a sport that these folks feel like you're, because of the money that you make off of these folks, they feel like you're their plaything and they could do what they want, right? Do you think in Rome, what was it called in Rome again? The Gladiator movie is based on it, where the gladiators will fight in the stadium the stadium in Rome. Do you think folks wasn't spitting on them and throwing shit at them and cursing them out and calling them all kinds of stuff? That's these people's culture. I'm surprised it hasn't happened more. In fact, one of my early memories with basketball is going back to the Boston Celtics winning a championship over the Lakers. And it seemed to me almost everyone in the stadium ran down onto the court. And I thought, looking at that and looking back at it, I'm surprised no one was stabbed or killed in that. The Coliseum in Rome. Sankofa knowledge came through. Yes, the Coliseum in Rome. I'm surprised no one was stabbed and killed in that. That's just what it is. When you go into that type of stuff, you're there for their entertainment, however that may come about, right? The talk about players starting their own leagues and they have the money to do it. We don't know. One thing we don't know, in terms of these established players, we don't know if they have contracts that prevent them from competing with the NBA. And we don't know if they have terms like forever. Right? Because when you look at the Ice Cube's I think it's the big three, there's a white boy who really is behind that. Cube is kind of the face of it, and I guess they're partners in it. I don't know what the split is, but there's a white guy in that. I was surprised to learn that. I thought Cube was more stand-up than that until I learned that. Right? So I see Kevin Cares pushing topics. Another topic is Dominique Wilkins getting denied at a restaurant in Buckhead, Georgia. Again, I'm not surprised. Who was it? There was another, I think it was Russell Westbrook also, was outside of a stadium in Oklahoma, which was the team he was playing for. He was a young player at the time, new to the league, and someone called him a nigger out there, and that's just to be expected. Unless in fact, there was another guy from the NBA who just won his case. I think he played for Minnesota at the time, and he was in Minnesota, and the cops hemmed him up, and I think he just won some money from them or something like that. Revolutionary Matron says malice at the palace started when a fan threw a drink at a player. It was the Indiana Pacers versus the Detroit Pistons. Yeah. I mean, they've been thought that was cool to do. If you go back to Bill Russell, from what I understand, Bill Russell doesn't fuck with Boston. He loves the team or whatever, the organization, but from what I understand, he doesn't go back to Boston because this dude was playing and winning championships every year, right? Or was in a championship game for like 11 years straight or something like that, and he had to go around the back to drink water or eat food or whatever. Again, that's what you're going to get as long as you're in these folks' nation. and you don't have some type of power backing you, that's what you're gonna get. As a matter of fact, if you get a power that backs you, you might even get worse. Although there are stories here in the States where folks were from powerful African spots and they weren't touched in the States even while there was slavery and stuff. Global Black African Empowerment says everyone needs to read The Psychopathic Racial Personality. Well, I have a treat for that. If you want, you could go listen to the book review that me and Carl Hezekiah did on that book. Right? KW7 says Patrick Ewing got harassed by security at Madison Square Gardens recently. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. I mean, like some of the sports show guys said, who do you think the 7-foot guy is? Right? Spike Lee got it too. Right? Spike Lee and you know what's so shameful? You know, Spike Lee is back front and center at these Knicks games right now in the playoffs. Like, he's back in the Garden, front and center, and every time the Knicks lose, they clown him and show him on the sideline with his hand on his kimber, looking sad. I mean, come on, black people. Do you think an establishment is gonna have a second chance to throw me out and rough me up with all this old shit? You think I'm going back there again? Man, you gotta be crazy. You gotta be crazy. Right? But Spike Lee had his ass up there front and center just the other day. You know? So yeah, that's what seemed to be going on out here. I appreciate all the prompts I got. The Pro Black Perspective asked about the video game thing. I actually saw that on your his Discord. By the way, the Pro Black Perspective has the Pan-African Discussion Discord as well. And I saw that up there, and I actually looked at the video of the game that you're gonna show, or you know, was referring to. I want to thank everyone who was here. Let me go to the list. Kevin Care 42. For those of you who weren't here early, like I said, I still haven't received t-shirts from the company. And so like I said last week, I'm not gonna be, because I'm not gonna put myself in a place where I'm backed up, you know, several people to have to send these things out to. So I won't do a giveaway until I have an inventory in hand. That's gonna take some time, but as soon as I get the shirts for the two folks who won previous giveaways, I'll get those out to you. And then after that, I'm working to try and get an inventory of shirts in different colors and sizes to have on hand, so that when I do the giveaway, I can get your shirt out the next day or two. Okay. Kevin Care 42 says, I photograph at Madison Square Garden twice a year. It's not a good place for black people. When I used to cover the Knicks, they used to put all the black photographers in one spot. I had a security camera aimed at us. That's wild. Sankofa Nod says, love this show. Greatness. Thank you. Thank you very much. Revolutionary Matron says, we have got to stop fighting to give them our money. I mean, please. All right? I try to avoid giving them my money as much as I can, but do you think if I went into an establishment and I got myself roughed up, spit on, cops called, I mean, come on, they'll never see me again. All right? So let me thank everyone who was here now. I'm going to jump on the Discord for a few minutes, as Kevin Care had asked. So everyone who wants to learn more about crowdfunding and self-publishing, let's jump in the lounge on the Discord. If you're not familiar with the Discord, the link is in the description of this episode. Click the link, join the Discord today, and invite others to come too. So Kevin Care 42 was here, Sankofa Knowledge was here, Revolutionary Matron was here. She donated to the Cash App. I didn't ask if I should say that, but I'll put it out there. Thank you for the donation as well. We got to work on getting folks to know about the stuff that you do as well, Revolutionary Matron. So talk to me in the Discord about that. Global Black African Empowerment is here. KW Dawn 7, as always, is here. Who else? The Pro Black Perspective is here. I appreciate you. You guys make sure to check out his show on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, if I'm not mistaken. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sundays, you can't miss it. Good stuff. So make sure to check it out. Also, he has books. You know, we talk about buying black, supporting each other. We talk about information and knowledge. He has 3 books. 2 of them I have. One I still have to get, you know, the Book of Power. But, you know, check out his work, right? Kevin Care 42 has the GoFundMe that he put the link in the chat earlier. Help him out with his cause, with his work. I know him personally. Does good work, and I hope to work with him again in the near future. All right. Jerry Wallace was here. Thanks for being here. Who else? I'm missing someone. Black Excellence was here. Man, the Muse Observer was here. Appreciate that. Coach Pete was here. Appreciate that as well. You know, there was 2 new faces I observed in here earlier. Let me catch the name. Alex Ibohan was here. Came through due to Daily Affirmations by Pauline. I appreciate her. By the way, Daily Affirmation by Pauline was here. Check her out. Check out her channel and the work that she's doing. Who else? There was someone else. AO, I think it was, right? AO who talked about the spirit was also here. NYC Sports Archives was here. Black Excellence, NYC Beauties. All right, I think I got everyone there. Appreciate all of you for being here. You know, you made Shoot the Breeze another good night. All right, if you want to join the Discord, I'll stick around for a little bit. Let's have this discussion on the crowdfunding and self-publishing. And you guys, you know that you can check out the Pro Black Perspective in the morning. Until next time, peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.